Let's understand the concat function. The function concat starts with double plus. So there's a difference. If there is a single plus, that is an operator. If it is 2 times plus, it is a concat function. So the concat function works on arrays. So let's add, it takes 2 arguments and it works on arrays. So if I give 2 arrays like 1a and the second array as 2b, it will give me a concatenated array. Okay, now you can also write it in different fashion, like add an array 1 comma a, then add a concat function and then give the second array like 2b. So this is the chaining method that we have implemented. Now the difference between the concat function and the plus operator, if you add a plus operator to it, it will add the second array as an array completely. It won't merge both the arrays, but it's instead adding the second array completely. Now on similar lines, if you try with a minus operator and add a, it will remove the element a. Make sure you enclose it in inverted quotes, and it removes the element from the array. So when you use a concat function using 2 arrays, it will merge both the arrays. Right, now let's try the concat function on 2 objects like JSON objects. So let's give a JSON object 1 and 2 and key 1 and value 2. So it has merged both the JSON objects into a single object. So this was the first input and this was the second input. And now since it is able to take 2 inputs, we can implement chaining to it. So we can do as remove this brackets and simply add a concat function. So we get the same output, right? And this chaining method is offers better readability as compared to the previous approach. Now you can also use the concat function on dates. So if you want to enter the date right away, the way that you can write it is use a modulus to write, okay, enclose between 2 modulus. So in data view, the date format is always as year, okay, y, then followed by the month 06, then followed by the date. So it's 20. So it gives you the date. Let's check the type of this date, means what is the type of it. Like we are able to see it as string in JSON. Let's check the type of using the type of function. Okay, syntactical error off. So the type of is date, right? So remember, whenever you want to write the date as it is, use enclose that date or time into a modulo symbol. So what if I change it to time like 15:14 and it gives me a local time, right? So now let's use the concat function on the date time. What I'll do is I'll add a date into a modulus, then 2020 06 20, and then I'll add time to it like 15:14. So if you do not mention the seconds, it automatically takes in the second. And so what is the type of that we get finally? Type of so the type of is local date time. So when you add date with time, it returns you a local date time, right? Now let's try something different. Okay, local date time. So we are getting a local date time. Let's remove this type of. So the reverse is also possible, like local date time 2, and if I give the time first followed by the date, even that works. So that works, right? And the output will be same. Even this is local date time, so even this is local date time. So the concat function can also take two arguments, of which the first argument can be a date and the second could be the time, and the vice versa is also applicable, right? Now let's try to play with time zones. So what if I add a time zone to a time, like 1514. Make sure you enclose it in a modulus. Then let me add a time zone like 0530. So I'll get a time zone, right? Now let's check the type of this. So the type of it should be time. So the type of is time for this, right? So you can add a time zone to time and it becomes a time type of object. If it's just a time, it remains local time. Let's check that as well. Type of and it's local time. So when there's no time zone, it is local time. When you add a time zone, it becomes time, correct? Let's just remove this and make it to a time object. Plus ensure that it's in double digit format. The time zone, the first the R part of the time zone should always be in double digit. So if it is 530, ensure that you add 0530. If you add 530, that won't work and it will give you an error like invalid input, right? So make sure you follow the structure. Now it works with date and it works with time and the time zone, so it gives you a time object. The reverse is also possible, like let's make it time zone 2 and then just reverse this plus plus, we get 1514, right? So the reverse is also possible. Now again, what if you add date time with, let's add date time. So we'll add date and the time. So always remember, when it's date time, it should be first it should be date followed by a t and then the time. So you get the date time, but this is not the date time. Instead it will be a local date time because it has no time zone. So it is local date time, right? Now if you concat a time zone like 5 plus 530, it becomes date time, right? So in this way you can concatenate a local date time with the time zone and it becomes date time. And same is the case, the reverse is also possible, like date time and followed by, what we'll do is take it first, the time zone plus plus the date time, date time 2. So we got the same output, right? So the reverse is possible. So for both local date time, the reverse is possible. For time zone, the reverse is possible, as well as for date time, the reverse is possible. So there are total 6 combinations for time using the concat function. So let's do a quick recap of what we have seen so far. So if you have a local date, concat it with time, it becomes local date time, and the vice versa is also possible, like date with time with the date gives you local date time. And I've also kept the second method, like use the plus plus function and give it 2 arguments, argument 1 and argument 2. You get the same output. If you observe this 2 and this 2, the output is same. Only thing is, in the first object of this array, I have used the chaining mechanism, and in the second I have gone with the normal approach, right? Same for time zone. You add a local time with a zone, it gives you time with the zone. And the reverse is also possible. Same is the case with date time. If you add a date time with a time zone, it becomes date time instead of local date time. The reverse is also possible. If you add arrays, 2 different arrays, they get merged, as opposed to having 2 arrays inside an array. If you change this with only a single plus, it gives you an array inside the original array, right? But if it is a concat function, it will merge both the arrays. And a point to notice that it will keep the duplicates as it is. Since here there are 2 zeros, it has kept 2 zeros as it is. It didn't remove the duplicates. Then in case of objects, it merges both the objects, like fname and lname have come into a single object, right? Then in case of string, it helps to concat all the string. So a point here to notice is, when I wanted to add spaces between the 2 string, I could do it right away in this case, right? Like add the first string, concat space, and then the second string. Whereas in the second approach, giving as parameters, what I did is, this was the first function. I gave 2 arguments, the first name and the second string space to this concat function, and then again this function got nested in the upper function. Like this becomes the first argument and this becomes the second argument. So that is why chaining is helpful, because it makes your code more readable. So this is about the concat function. Now let's try a few different things with the concat function. What I'll do is, I'll remove this completely and make it a blank JSON, and I'll write a function. I'll write my own implementation of the concat function plus plus, which will take first name and last name and add a space between them, right? So fname, and its type is string, then last name, its type is string. And what I'll do is, I'll add both the name fname plus plus space plus plus lname. So it is adding a space between the 2 names. Alright, no errors. Now what I'll do is, I'll give name and call this plus plus function. I'll give it first name and I'll give it the last name. So it should add and give me the output. So what do you think? It will work or it won't? Let's see. It's not working. Let's see the issues. So what did we get? We got a stack overflow. And what is the max size? It's 256. And why did the stack overflow happen? It is because this is my custom plus plus function, alright, but this plus plus is referring to the same plus plus function. It doesn't refer to the actual core.dw implementation of the plus plus function. So what happened? It became a recursive function calling itself again and again. And when the stack size went to 256, calling again and again, it overflow, right? So what if I want to make it work properly? Because the normal plus plus function will just add it, it won't add a space. We can do that, but just for the sake of learning, what we can do is we can call the core module. So like dw double colon should be core, then so it is giving the expected output without any Stack Overflow error, right? So what I've done is I've just added dw core and specified that this plus plus function has to be retrieved from the dw core module, right? And same thing for both the plus plus function, and it is giving me the expected output. However, you would also think this could be simply done by name and what do we say, we can right away give the plus plus implementation, right? If there's no function of this sort, if I remove this, and you can simply do this way, plus plus then space and then the last name. This can also be done, but just for the sake of understanding that how can you reuse the module function inside your own custom function with the same name, and if you do not give any namespace to it, I mean you do not give an identifier to it, it will end up with recursion and result into a Stack Overflow error. So just to show that point, I did this way just to get an understanding. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching.